Good morning, Priyanka.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, Priyanka. And happy Ashtami to all of you, those who are celebrating Navratri.
Yes, happy Ashtami.
Thank you, and same to you. मैंने वो लिंक डाला है विवेक.
जी, okay, got it.
Okay, so I will leave now. I'll be in the Ashur office. Should you need anything?
Sure. Ajay, I'll try. Maybe I'll get free by 11:30. So after that, I'll come. I'll call you and I'll check. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
See you then. Have a good
See
session.
you. Bye. Ajay, just make me and Khushboo the co-host before leaving. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Actually, I have to assign somebody the host. So Vivek will be the host now.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
So Vivek, are you going to try the side-by-side mode? Because I feel in that box that they keep seeing, right? The black box won't appear. So it becomes a little easier.
See, there's an option. If you go to share your screen portion, advanced, there is option portion of screen where you will be able to share a specific portion. Let me try this one. Okay. I can choose which portion I want to show.
Okay.
So I think that may work. Just try that.
For me, the option in advanced is only one participant can share a screen at a time, or multiple participants can share. Other than that, I don't have it's only who can share and who can share when someone else is sharing.
You don't just let me check your rights. Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Spirit. Good morning.
It's not available. Let me try to make you host, then see if it works.
Let's see. We'll try.
It's between you and me. Okay, you are the host.
Yeah.
Let's see if it works.
No, I think maybe I need to work into my settings and then.
No, you are the host now. Now go to share screen.
Yeah, I did. And the
Advanced.
same option coming in advanced.
Can you make me the host again? I'll just check that.
Yeah, I'll just do that. It's okay. Let me just continue then.
Okay. Just one option is there. What you can do, you can share your screen. Instead of sharing the slide itself, there's an option you can share the screen itself. In the screen, you can show the slides side by side.
Yeah,
that should work. Actually, we tried that. That works. Go to share, basics, and screen. Choose the screen, not the PPT.
Hey, just a second. Okay, I think I have it now. The portion of your screen. Let me try. Okay.
Just try this, please.
Yeah.
Thank you, Priyanka and Sharath, for waiting.
It's all right.
Okay. Does that work?
Currently, I can see your slide only.
Yeah. So Because once I put it up as a slideshow, then it's the entire, it covers the
Yes, yes, definitely. If you are putting it as slideshow, you can't see another portion of the screen.
Yeah, yeah. So just a second.
Just minimize this one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do that. But then still it'll be, okay, let me try. Okay, you can see the slide, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. And what I'm gonna do is, okay, I have the video panel on, but you guys cannot see any black box or anything on it, right? On
Not
your
as of now.
Okay, perfect. I think this works then because otherwise the kids generally see a black box and they get irritated with that coming in between. So just wanted to get that sorted. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Vivek.
Okay. That's it. Okay, you're welcome. Floor is yours. Okay, I'm around only in case
Yeah.
if you need anything, just let me know. Okay.
Do you want to give a reminder to Nizam if he's joining?
Sure.
Because I think he enrolled. Okay. So I think we'll begin and then we'll just have probably Nizam catch up on the topic. So good morning once again, all of you. And today we're going to be taking the paper 4, which is business economics, and we're going to touch upon chapter 4 and 5, which is basically to do with your markets and price determination in the markets, and also business cycles. So, just to get a feeling as to where you stand with economics right now, uh, Priyanka, I'm guessing you have completed the portion once, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And Sarath, how about you? Have you started with economics? Sarath. Okay. I think we'll just proceed. I'll try to cover in detail as much as I can, but since we have just 2 hours and the topics are a little detailed, um, we are going to try our best to uh, cover it up for you. Okay. So, chapter 4, unit 1 is basically going to take you to meaning and types of markets. Um, Now, just an overview, what all we are going to be doing today. It's the markets, the behavioral principles of the markets, then determination of prices, and that we have under various types of markets, which is perfect competition, monopoly, monopolistic, and oligopoly. Um, Meaning of market. So, before we dive into the meaning of market, let's understand certain terms. Okay, free goods and economic goods. So, goods that are, as the name suggests, like free goods, those that are available in abundance. Unfortunately, we have just very few of them right now, thanks to our own exploitation. So we have sunlight, air, those are the examples of goods which are available in abundance. And these are our free goods. We don't need to pay anything for them, thankfully. Then we have the economic goods, which are scarce in relation to their demand and have an opportunity cost associated with them. Yeah. Good morning. Okay. Uh, so we were on economic goods. Economic goods are basically, they are scarce in relation to their demand. That means their demand is more, but the goods available are not that many and have an opportunity cost associated with them. So opportunity cost is what? It is basically the next best alternative that you are sacrificing in the process of decision making. For example, you have, say, 100 fills with you, okay? And you walk into a cold store. You have a pen that's costing you 100 fills, and at the same time, you have a packet of chips that's costing you 100 fills. So you have just 100. So what are you going to be spending it on? Yeah. So that is basically you're losing out on one of the goods because you have limited money with you. And that's the opportunity cost that you're facing at that time. Uh, price. Price in common terms is nothing but the quantity of money that is necessary to acquire a good or service. Um, Price connotes money value, that is basically the purchasing power of an article expressed in terms of money. We go in detail later relating to price. Value in use. Value in use, as you can see from the name itself, it is the usefulness of the product. That's how you value the product. And value in exchange or economic value, it is nothing but the most that someone is willing to give up in other goods and services in order to obtain that particular good or service. So something like, the opportunity cost, but that's what is value in exchange or economic value, where you're willing to give up you are willing to give up in other goods and services in order to obtain a particular good or service. So this basically exchange value or economic value is is basically determined in the markets where exchange of goods and services takes place.
Ma'am, we
Yes,
learned about the opportunity cost. No? What is the
yeah,
relevance of this opportunity cost?
yeah, exactly like we just mentioned. Relevant to this opportunity cost is, can you see the screen? Can you see the value in exchange or economic value?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I can see.
So basically, economic value of the goods is the most that someone is willing to give up in other goods and services in order to obtain a particular good or service. Um, for example, I have, like we said, right? I'm the previous example of 100 fills. Now I'm ready to give up that 100 fills, that price, that money that I have. I'm ready to give that 100 fills up in order to get a particular good or service. Now, in opportunity cost, that's what, if you see the first definition that we have on economic goods are scarce in relation to their demand and have an opportunity cost associated with them. So that is what is basically an opportunity cost. That's where the relevance of opportunity cost comes in. So when we are pricing economic goods, we take into consideration the opportunity cost. Yeah. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. It's basically to value that particular economic good. Okay, coming back to this exchange value or economic value is basically determined in markets where exchange of these goods and services take place. So, market in very simple terms is a collection of buyers and sellers with a potential to trade. Okay, it need not be formal or held in a particular place. We can define the market simply as all those buyers and sellers of a good or service who influence price. Okay, is it clear till? Okay. So is it clear till here where we have the definition of market? Okay. Elements of a market, very simple. And as you can see, it is there in the definition itself that you have buyers and sellers. You have a product or a service. That's the thing that you're going to be trading. You have bargaining for a price. That is, you need to bargain to come to a conclusion of a price, which is basically on your demand and supply. We'll come to it in the next slides. Knowledge about the market condition. One should have knowledge of the particular condition of the market at that particular time. And one price for a product or service at a given time. Okay, so that is basically the elements of market. Classifications of market. Now, general classification we can do based on product market and factor market. Can anyone tell me what is a product market? Very simple.
Where exchange of goods takes place.
Exactly, that's a product market. And what is a factor market?
Where factors of production are exchanged.
Exactly. The factors of production like land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So these come under the factor market. So this is general classification. Now we look at classification of markets as in economics. We are having it here under geographical area. As the name suggests, local market, regional, national, international. Okay. Local is, of course, to a particular small local area. It can be a small city, a small town. Regional goes a little more than that, where you cover a particular region. And then national covers the entire country. And then you have the international, which covers the entire world. Now, this is becoming a little outdated because most of the products and services that we have, we are globally trading in them. We even look at that these days we get fresh fruits and vegetables that are coming all the way from India, China, Australia. So this basically is becoming a little outdated method of classifying markets, as most of them are classified as international markets. Then we have time. In time, we have the classification as a very short period market where, um, you know, the output is fixed and you cannot really change anything. And that's why it's called a very short period market where only that particular output is going to be sold. Then you have short period, which is a little longer than the very short period market, where some factors you can change and play around with. Long period, you have relative flexibility, and it's a long period where all the factors can be changed, and that's the reason it's called a long period market. And very long period is generally, it takes uh, place in particular eras, or relating to your GDP or your national income. Very long period uh, comparisons or market, that's what we do there. Okay, just give me a second. Yeah, so on the basis of nature of transaction, we have spot or crash market, which is nothing but you try to transact, exchange goods either immediately or a very within short span of time. You try to transact it in cash. And forward or future markets, which is like, you try to, in this market, the transaction involves basically contracts with a promise to pay and deliver goods at some future date. So that's what is called a forward or future market. Then on the basis of regulation, we have regulated, unregulated markets. Regulated markets, we have where, there is some kind of regulation in place so that unfair trade practices do not take place. So those kind of markets are called the regulated ones. The unregulated market is a free market where there is no regulation and no rules to governing that particular market. Volume of business, this is a very the most commonly used term, where you see it's based on wholesale market and retail market. It's based on the volume of transaction or the volume of goods that you're selling at a particular time. So there are certain sellers who are going to be wholesale in the wholesale market, where they buy in bulk. And then you have the retail market, which is basically to the end consumers who buy one or two of that particular product. Then you have type of competition. Here it is perfectly competitive and imperfectly competitive. So this is something that we are definitely going to be looking in detail. That is perfect competition and imperfect competition. This we'll be looking in detail, in the later slides. Okay. Moving to a brief of what we are going to look into detail. We are having perfect competition. The perfect competition is basically characterized by many sellers and many buyers and identical products. Okay. Monopolistic competition, it differs in only one respect, which is there are many sellers offering differentiated products to many buyers. Monopoly, it is a situation where there is a single seller producing for many buyers. Its product is necessarily extremely differentiated, since there is no competition in the market for that particular product, and there are no close substitutes. So that's what monopoly is. And oligopoly, there are very few sellers selling competing products to many buyers. Just a quick differentiation between all the four markets. You have
Can you please give the examples for each one? That will be easy for us to just remember it.
Right. So let's see. When we talk about perfect competition, this is actually a very hypothetical situation where we have, the number of the large number of sellers, large number of buyers, identical products. It could, I think we have it in the coming slides. Should I get into details in the coming slides? Because we're going to go in detail the features of perfect competition and everything, which has the examples. Does that help, Nizam? Okay. Let's look at it at that time. Okay. Now, when we have just a quick, differentiation between all the four markets that we've talked about. We have number of sellers. We have in perfect competition, we have very large number of sellers. In monopolistic, it is large. Oligopoly, we have small number of sellers. And in monopoly, we have just one seller. Okay. Product differentiation, we have in perfect competition, none. That is because it is perfect competition, there is not much of product differentiation or none product differentiation. Then in monopolistic, we have slight product differentiation. In oligopoly, none to substantial. And in monopoly, we have extreme product differentiation. That's the reason that there is no competition. Okay. Price elasticity of demand. Okay, who wants to tell me what is price elasticity of demand? Yes, Priyanka?
Basically, the responsiveness of the consumer when the price changes, how would he demand the commodity?
Exactly. So price elasticity of demand is nothing but the change in the quantity demanded of the product in relation to the change in price. So for some products, like for example, if we say a product like very basic product like salt, okay? Say salt you're getting for a particular quantity, you're getting for 100 fills, and that increases to say 110 fills, do you think you'll stop consuming salt if it increases to 110 fills?
No.
Exactly. So there the elasticity is actually, it's inelastic, right? Where you don't have any kind of change in consumption when the price of the product increases or decreases. Because even if it decreases, say 90 fills, doesn't mean that we'll start consuming more salt, right? And but there are certain goods, for example, supposing a particular fruit is costing you say 100 fills today, and then tomorrow you see that that particular fruit is going to cost you 110 or 200 fills. I don't think that fruit is that important that you will end up 200 fills for that particular fruit when it doubles the price, right? So that's the elasticity of price elasticity of demand. So when we come to price elasticity of demand of a firm and differentiate the market types, in perfect competition we have it as infinite. In monopolistic competition we have it as large, that is um, the elasticity is quite high. And then in oligopoly, we have it as small, and monopoly as small. That's the reason that they are able to charge higher prices for those particular products. Okay. Degree of control over price. That is, how much can you control the price? Under perfect competition, no control, because whatever the price is fixed in the market, that's what you are going to take. In monopolistic competition, there is some control. Okay. Oligopoly also some, and monopoly, you have very considerable control over price because you are the price maker. Okay. Again, as I said, we'll go into details for each of the each of the market types, especially these four, and then it gets more clear with more examples. Okay. Now, before we get into, each market form in detail and look at the price determination, let's look at certain revenue concepts. So, total revenue, as the name suggests, is nothing but your price into quantity. Okay. Average revenue, this most of the times is going to be equal to your price, because average revenue is nothing but your revenue earned per unit of output. So divide your total revenue by quantity, which is nothing but your price. This is why we said that it's going to be equal to your price. Marginal revenue is the change in total revenue resulting from the sale of an additional unit of that commodity. So your change in total revenue upon change in total quantity is going to give you your marginal revenue. Clear? Revenue concepts are clear over here? Okay. So let's look at how these kind of curves can be plotted on the graph. Okay, this is an example where you have 1 unit. For 1 unit, your total revenue is 10. So your average will be 10 upon 1, which is 10. Your marginal revenue is also 10. Now, when you increase the price to 2, when you increase the units to 2, your total revenue increases to 18. That means your average revenue is 9 and your marginal revenue is 8. That is because change in total revenue, that is 18 minus 10, 8, upon change in units, which is 1. Okay, so now you can see that as the units are increasing, we have total revenue. It is increasing till unit 5. It remains same for unit 6, and then it starts falling down. Okay, average revenue is decreasing throughout as the units are increasing, and marginal revenue, it is decreasing but it is declining more than the average revenue, and it's also becoming negative. Okay, now let's see how the graph is going to look like. Over here we have, in the first graph, we have the total revenue curve. As you can see, it goes up till the 6th unit where it is where your total revenue is 30, and then starts to fall. And this is the time when your marginal revenue is 0. Okay, so when your total revenue hits the maximum, your marginal revenue is 0. Your average revenue is falling, your marginal revenue is falling, it is going below 0 as well. Okay, so with this, can we conclude one thing, that when your total revenue hits maximum, your MR is 0? Or the other way around as well, that is, when MR, your marginal revenue, is equal to 0, that's when you are having maximum revenue, or total revenue hits the topmost peak. Okay, so that's one thing that we can conclude here with the relation of total revenue, marginal revenue, and average revenue. On the side, if you see this particular graph, this is nothing but AR and MR, that is price curves under perfect competition. So we'll see this graph once more, and that's when probably I can explain it more in detail. For now, you need to just understand that in a perfect competition, your price remains the same. That is, you are a price taker from the market. For example, the price in the market is fixed at, for example, for right now, for a bag of caboose, okay, you pay 100 fills. So this is something that is fixed in the market, and even if you want to, you cannot increase the price, because everyone is just taking 100 fills for the normal caboose that you buy from outside. So your price remains fixed. Whether you increase the quantity or reduce the quantity, your price is the same. This is why it is one horizontal line, and AR is equal to MR in that perfect competition. Okay. Okay. Now let's see the relation between AR, MR, TR, and price elasticity of demand. Now, MR is generally equal to your average revenue into E minus 1 upon E, where E is the price elasticity of demand. Now, what we explained before, price elasticity of demand is basically how the consumers react to a change in price. Now, if E is equal to 1, if you substitute that in the formula, you will get MR is equal to 0. If E is greater than 1, then your MR will be positive. And if your E is less than 1, then your MR will be negative. So it's nothing but when E is greater than 1, that means there is larger price elasticity. That means if the price increases or decreases, your quantity also in large volumes will increase or decrease. And elasticity is less than 1. That means when your price increases, your quantity might not increase, might not reduce to that extent. So the comparison of quantity and price is basically that elasticity that they are talking about here. Let's look at this particular graph. Okay. Here in this first one, we have, this is the demand curve or the AR curve, which is downward sloping. That is, as the price reduces, we have that the quantity demanded would increase. Now, this is the AR curve. This dotted line is the MR curve. Okay. Now we have MR is equal to 0 over here at ON. And when you extend that up, this particular point will give you E is equal to 1, right? This is what we said over here, that if if E is equal to 1, MR is equal to 0. So that's what we are looking at over here, is plotted on this is extended to the AR curve, and whatever is on the left of this portion where E is greater than 1, and whatever is to the right of this portion on this demand curve, where we have it as E is less than 1. Okay. At the same time, we know that when your MR is 0, your total revenue hits the peak. Okay, so this is basically your relation between AR, MR, your total revenue, and the elasticity. Is that clear till here? Okay. Moving to behavioral principles. Okay, there are two principles that we need to keep in mind when we are talking about behavioral principles in a particular market. Principle 1, a firm should not produce at all. A firm should not produce at all if its total variable costs are not met. Okay, we all know that cost will have a fixed portion and a variable portion. Fixed portion is based on your fixed expenses like machinery, plant, equipment that you have purchased. Those are related to your fixed costs. Variable cost is depending on, like, the raw materials that you're using, the labor, everything that is used to produce that particular product. So this particular example you can take, your fixed cost is, say, per unit is, say, 1,000 rupees, and your variable cost per unit is 800 rupees. So your total cost comes up to 1,800 rupees. Supposing the price in the market for that product right now is 700 rupees. Do you think we should really get into the production of this particular product? We are talking about scenario 1.
We should be increasing because the price itself is less than the variable cost.
Exactly. Right, Priyanka. So as the price is only 700 and your variable cost itself, that is to produce the product, you're going to have a cost of 800 rupees per unit. You are not going to get into the production of that product because it's only going to give you losses. Scenario 2, we are having the price is 900. The cost remains the same, that is 1800. Now, should we consider getting into the production of that product or no? Nizam, are you able to gauge the question? Okay. Priyanka?
Yeah, I think we can consider the proposal as per the principle because since the price is more than variable cost.
Yeah. So the price is definitely more than the variable cost. We can cover a portion of the fixed cost as well in that 900 rupees, right? So we will still consider that we can continue with the production if you're already doing. We can continue with the production at scenario 2. And scenario 3, definitely we should produce because we are earning supernormal profits. That is, our total cost is only 1800 and the price is 1900 for the product. So this is the first principle, that a firm should not produce at all if its total variable costs are not met. The second principle is that the firm will make maximum profits by expanding the output to the level where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. Okay, let's understand this clearly. Here you have the marginal revenue curve, and then you have the marginal cost curve. What the principle says is when your MR is equal to MC, that is E, this is your profit maximization point. If you produce anything below E, for example, if you produce A number of units, you will be losing out on EFG portion of profit. And if you produce B number of units, you are actually going to be having a loss of EH1 portion over here, because your marginal cost is more than your marginal revenue. So EH1 is the portion where you will be having a loss. That is the loss. So the optimum or the best quantity to be produced is at quantity Q, and where MR is equal to MC. Same way down, you have the total profit curve, and at Q, it hits the maximum. So till the point Q, okay, profit is increasing because MR is greater than MC, right? Your marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost. And after this particular portion, what's happening? Your marginal revenue is below the marginal cost. So your profit is decreasing. Okay. So the best quantity to produce when you want to decide how much to produce is going to be on your Q as the quantity and the place where MR is equal to MC. That is your second principle. So the first principle being, if you're not able to cover the variable cost, stop production. Okay. It could be a temporary stop in production as well. Once the price increases, you can again start producing. And the principle 2 is basically the firm will make maximum profits when your MR is equal to MC. Okay, with this we come to end of unit 1. We're going to start with determination of prices, which is your unit 2. Okay. Okay, general view. Okay, in an open competitive market, it is interaction between your demand and supply that tends to determine the equilibrium price and quantity. Very simple terms, demand for a particular product and supply of a particular product is going to help you decide what is going to be the price and the quantity for that product, for that output. In equilibrium state, the aggregate quantity that the firm wishes to sell equals the total quantity that all the buyers wish to buy, and therefore the market clears. So it's a situation where your demand is completely met by the supply. Equilibrium price or market clearing price is the price at which the quantity demanded of a commodity equals to the quantity supplied of the commodity. That is, this price, there is no unsold stock or no unsupplied demand. Okay, you're meeting your demand completely. So here in this example, if you see the price of a product, if it is 1, your demanded units are 60, but the supply is only 5. Whereas when you reach price as 2 rupees, your quantity demanded is 35 and you can supply 35 units. This is the place where you are reaching an equilibrium because your demand is equal to your supply. When you increase the price to 3, what's going to happen? The number of units demanded reduces to 20 and the supply increases to 45. So what happens generally in a market is that supposing you reach this particular situation where your good is priced at 3 rupees and the supply, you have say 45 units of that particular good which are available with you right now, but the demand that is coming at this particular price, that is 3 rupees, is only for 20 units. What's going to happen? You are going to try to reduce your price so that your goods sell off quickly and there is no inventory, you are not stocking up or unsold stock does not remain with you. So this is why you will try to reduce, and when you reduce it to 2 rupees, what happens? Your units are sold off completely. So the market generally corrects itself and brings itself to that equilibrium price where the demand and supply meet each other. Okay, that's the general view. Now let's look at what happened when we change the demand and supply. See, the earlier equilibrium analysis was done on ceteris paribus assumption, that is assuming all other factors remain constant and only the price changes. But however, in the real world, that is not the case. So there are many factors that influence the demand of a commodity, like you have income, you have taste, technology, etc., that keep changing and cause a shift in the supply and demand. Now, these shifts affect the equilibrium price, and there are 4 possible outcomes that could happen. The first one that we have is an increase in demand. Okay, so the demand increases, that means this demand curve shifts from DD to D1, D1. Okay, this is a right shift, a forward shift of the demand curve, and supply remains as it is. So when this happens, that is increase in demand and supply remains as it is, what's going to happen? Earlier, you were getting an equilibrium at quantity Q and your price was OP. When the demand curve shifted, your supply curve hits it at E1. So the equilibrium price is now moved to P1 and your quantity is moved to Q1. Okay, so this particular, and at the same price, if the price remains same, the quantity sold would be higher, which is Q2. So if the demand increases, we see that there is an increase in price and there is an increase in quantity. Okay, when there is a decrease in demand, what happens? The price will decrease and the quantity, that's what we're saying, right? Quantity would also be decreasing. So let's look at this particular graph. The demand curve moves left, that is backwards from D to D1, where your equilibrium shifts from E to E1, which is below, okay? And your quantity reduces to Q1, which is less than OQ, which was your original quantity, and price reduces to P1, which is less than your earlier price of P. So a decrease in demand will cause a decrease in price and decrease in quantity. Clear? Now we're looking at supply, and demand remains constant. So if the demand is constant and the supply increases from the curve S to S1, again, it's moving right, and that's a forward shift of supply curve. So if the supply is increasing, what's going to happen? It will result in decreasing the price and increasing the quantity supplied. Very simple terms we'll come to just a second. Now, decrease in supply as well. If we see it's a backward shift or a left shift of the supply curve, and this leads to an increase in price. Your price increases from OP to P1, and your quantity is decreasing, okay, to Q1. In very simple terms, just try to understand this. Supposing supply of a particular product is increasing, okay, there is more quantities of that product being supplied to you. What's it going to result into? You have a lot of stock. What are you going to do in order to sell the stock? You are going to decrease the price, okay. And likewise, if there is a decrease in supply, that is, you have less or limited stock, but you have more demand, the people asking for it are more, what are you going to do? You're going to increase your price, okay. So in simple terms, that's how we would explain these changes in demand and supply. Is this clear? Is the concept getting clear for you? Please ask if there are any questions, please ask them and we'll try to solve them as we go, yeah? Nizam, are you here with us? Nizam, Sarath? Okay. Okay. Now we can look at simultaneous change in demand and supply. Okay. When we have an increase in demand, we saw that the curve moves right, that is D to D1. And for supply as well, we have that the curve moves from S to S1 in the right position or forward position. Now, if it increases in the same proportion, that is, increase in demand is equal to increase in supply, then your price remains the same. Only the quantity increases from OQ to OQ1 at the equilibrium. Okay. Next, we see that your increase in demand is more than the increase in supply. That is, the quantity demanded is more, but the quantity increased more, but the quantity supplied did not increase as much as the quantity is being demanded. What's that going to lead to? Your price of the product will definitely increase, right? Because there is demand and the supply is short. So OP moves to OP1, which is higher than OP. And your quantity is definitely increasing to OQ to OQ1. Same thing, the same graph, if we look at it as a fall from D1 to D, supposing the quantity earlier demanded was D1 and now it fell to D, which fell in more, like if the fall in demand is more than the fall in supply, okay, the supply fell from S1 to S, but the demand fell from D1 to D, which is more than the supply. So what's going to happen? The new price is going to be less, that is OP will be the new price, and it is less than OP1, which was the first price or the price before. So basically two concepts, that is increase in demand is more than the increase in supply, and if there's a fall in demand which is greater than the fall in supply, then what would happen? Okay. Next, the figure C, if we see, the increase in supply is more than the increase in demand. So that means what? Your stock, your quantity that you have with you to sell is more. The supply increased, but the demand did not increase. What are you going to do? you have to reduce the price in order to sell off your stock, right? So when you have an increase in supply which is greater than increase in demand, then your OP1, the new price, is going to be less than your original price of OP. The quantity will still increase from OQ to OQ1, but your price will fall. If it was vice versa, that is, supply reduced from S1 to S and demand also reduced, but it reduced less, that is D1 to D, then what's going to happen? The new price, that is because your supply reduced drastically, but your demand did not reduce enough. That means what? You are going to increase your price, right? Because your supply has reduced to a larger extent. You don't have enough products with you, so you are going to increase that particular price of a product so that you can meet the demand of the consumers. Yes, Nizam?
Yeah, ma'am. Here we are referring the demand and supply with respect to price, no? So that time, do we need to mention the quantity demanded and quantity supplied?
Yeah, so your quantity is on the x-axis and your price is on the y-axis, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If in this particular graph. Uh, so that's what we are looking at, that the price and quantity, how do they change when the demand or supply changes? It is very simple. Think of it, if you are the firm or if you are the owner of a business, okay, and then look at these graphs. They will definitely make sense to you. Like I explained in the last one, where you have a particular product, say, whose supply has increased. Okay, so supply of that particular
Yes.
product has increased tremendously, but the demand did not increase as much. That means you have a lot
Yeah.
of product that you need to sell, but the demand has not increased that much. What are you going to do? You are going to reduce the
Reduce the
price so
price.
that you. Yes, exactly. So that's
Yeah.
what your C is showing, that your price reduces to OP1 and your quantity has increased to OQ1.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay.
You wrote fall in supply is greater than fall in demand, no?
Yeah. So that is
What
the
is a
vice versa
logic?
situation. That is, if your first, your think of S1, D1, and E1 as your prevailing uh, situation. Okay, that is your current situation, and suddenly the supply reduced from S1 to S. Okay, so the fall in supply, that is from S1 to S, is greater than your fall in demand, which was from D1 to D. That means now your goods available with you are very less, but the demand did not decrease that much. So, what you're going to do? You are going to increase the price of the product, right? Because there is demand for the product, but the supply has reduced. That's
Yeah,
why.
ma'am. Actually, in the scenario where we are analyzing, the demand was less and the supply was more. So, so if you reduce the supply from that to the where actually the people want to the demand, then how there will be some we can bring the equilibrium, no?
Yeah. So, okay, you know what? Let me look at uh, sharing it on a white. Just a second, because it's very important to understand these situations, because your MCQs would be based on these kind of graphs. Okay. Let's just give me a second.
Ma'am, did you get my question? What I was trying to say?
Yeah, I understood your question. I'll just show it to you on a whiteboard. Okay.
Yes.
Um, okay, I'm not getting the option of the whiteboard. Let me show it to you on screen with paint. Okay. Can you see now that it's a whiteboard there for you?
Yes, ma'am, I can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, I can see it.
Okay. Let me just quickly get the brushes in order. Okay. Now, for example, so this is your product price here, and this is the quantity here. Okay. What we are trying to say over here is that supposing this was your, see, this is your supply curve, and say this is your demand curve, and so this is your equilibrium, right? Sorry, my
Yeah,
drawing won't be great, but yeah, I'm trying. Okay, so this is your supply, demand, and this is your equilibrium, and that's the quantity. Now, what we are trying to say is that if your supply falls, okay, your supply is falling
yeah,
to a great extent. Okay, this is your new supply.
yeah.
Now your demand also falls, but not to that extent. Supposing it comes here.
Yeah,
Okay, D2. Now, this is your new equilibrium. Okay, wait, just here, this was D1. Now, this is your equilibrium 2 and P2.
yeah,
Okay, now what's happening here? Your supply reduced to a very large extent, but your demand reduced very little. So can you say that the demand is still higher than the supply?
yeah. It's still higher,
From
no?
yeah, point. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's why what will happen, you will try to increase your price
Yeah,
because the number of products with you, the supply, that is the number of products with you is less, but the demand is higher. What will happen? You will
yeah.
try to
Price will
increase
be there.
the price,
Price will
right?
increase.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the price is increasing to OP2. And likewise, but your quantity has reduced to Q2 because your supply reduced, right?
ma'am. There can also be a situation, right, where the decrease in the supply is equal to decrease in demand.
Yeah, we did that. Just give
Yeah,
me a second. Yeah, we did that in which let me just get back to the PPT for you. Uh,
ma'am. This is market forces, right? Like
yeah,
in which the individual firm does not have the control over it, and it actually changes it, right? Due to the market forces.
yeah, the supply
That's
and
why we are
demand of
referring to.
product. That's why we are referring it to you know
Yeah,
the change for the firms. Okay,
yeah. Ma'am,
okay,
the first thing what I mentioned, the question what I mentioned is I thought in respect to the firm. It's like if the supply is more and the demand is say some unit, and so we can reduce the supply to what is according to what is demand. So I thought it with the respect to the firm.
right,
Yeah,
right. But this is with respect to the market, right?
market.
Yeah. Okay. So can we proceed now?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next, we have the change in demand and supply, but now it is in opposite directions. So your demand, in the first figure, we have that your demand increases, but the supply has reduced. the supply has decreased. So then what happens here? And your increase in demand is greater than the decrease in supply. So in this case, your equilibrium shifts to E1, where you have the quantity demanded is increasing and your price is also increasing. Likewise, if your demand increases but your supply increases more, that is, your supply reduces more, sorry, that is, your decrease in demand in supply is greater than your increase in demand. Then also, what will happen? Your price will increase from OP to P1, and your quantity will decrease from OQ to OQ1. So, in both the conditions, your price is definitely going to increase. But in the first condition, where your increase in demand is greater than your decrease in supply, there we see that the quantity is increasing. And here, when you have your increase in demand is less than the decrease in supply, then you see that the quantity is decreasing. Okay. With that, we come to the end of Unit 2 and proceed to Unit 3. Just a second. Okay. This is where we are going to learn about the price output determination in different market forms. We start with the perfect competition. Okay, let's understand here. Nizam will be understanding in detail about perfect competition and all the various four situations that we saw. Okay, now perfect competition has large number of buyers and sellers, like we said. So the individual seller or individual buyer cannot really influence the price. For example, like you wanted an example here for perfect competition, right? I can give you a very small example. You go to a vegetable market in India, and if for a particular thing like potatoes or onions, which are very commonly used, a price is fixed, say 50 rupees per kilo. Now, since the entire vegetable vendors, they are getting it from the same source, maybe from the similar farmers who are farming, very close to each other, they have fixed a price at which they sold them. And the vegetable vendors also, they understood that this is going to be like, selling at 50 rupees per kg. So even if you go to 2, 3 vegetable vendors in that same market, they are going to tell you the same price, which is 50 rupees per kg. Okay. And this then becomes like where even if you want to purchase it at a lower price, you cannot do that because they've all agreed that they are going to stick to that particular price. So,
yes, ma'am. Yeah,
Yeah.
in the individual sellers and buyers cannot influence the price, no? Suppose a vendor decides that I will sell it for less price and I want to increase the demand. What would happen?
So if one particular seller tries to do that, what's going to happen is that if he reduces the price, then he will definitely attract more customers, but he will never be able to meet that demand because the
Why?
supply is limited with him. The number of
Yeah.
goods is limited with him.
Ma'am, at least he can finish up the stock he has with me, no?
Yeah, but it won't survive. I mean, in the long run, in the short run, he can, but in the long
Yeah.
run, it will not survive.
Yeah.
So that's why in
Ma'am,
the long
if you look at the toothpaste, no, there are large number of buyers and sellers, right? That also can be a perfect competition.
Yeah, this can come actually under, okay, yes, perfect competition, but also under monopolistic, if I'm not wrong. where we have similar products that are sold. Okay, there's very
Yeah.
limited product differentiation, which is based on how you market the product or how you package the product or what one ingredient is different. Like you generally hear there are ads these days that yeah, आपके toothpaste में नमक है. So something different that they can do, they will try to do to sell their product.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
that
even they reduce the price also, right?
yeah, so that probably comes under the monopolistic front.
Yeah.
Perfect competition have identical products. Okay, so product
Yeah.
supply, that's the second point, that is product supplied is homogeneous or identical. Okay, every
Okay,
firm
ma'am.
is free to enter or leave the market. Okay, in this perfect competition, perfect knowledge of the market conditions by the buyer and the seller. There is very low transaction cost, that is they do not spend too much time and money to find each other and enter into a transaction. All the firms are individually price takers. Okay, they have to accept the price that is determined by the market forces. That's what happens in perfect competition.
Ma'am,
Okay.
can you just explain what is price takers?
Yeah, so price takers means like we were just discussing about this change in demand and supply, and we were looking at various graphs, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, once that price is fixed in that market, in perfect competition, that particular firm has to take that price. It cannot move away from that price. If it,
Yeah.
like we said, right? If it drops the price, then the quantity demanded would be more. It will not meet the requirement of the market, and then it might collapse. It might not be able to survive, and it might get corrected again by increasing the price to the equilibrium price. So under perfect competition, we the firm becomes
Ma'am,
the
can we say this gold market is a perfect competition?
uh,
Can we say gold market is a perfect
again now
competition?
gold market again becomes there are two portions in gold. One is the price that you have to take, which is the global price for gold that is going on at that time, right? That we need to take for
This
the
price takers, no, ma'am.
yeah, that to a certain extent. But when you're talking about a vendor who is selling products which are made of gold, then it becomes
Yeah,
difficult because there is something called making cost. So
yeah,
that again differs the product. And again, it becomes not so perfect competition. Yeah,
yeah,
it
yeah,
becomes more towards monopolistic competition because your products are a
yeah, yeah.
little
A little variance is there.
yeah. But if it is a bar of gold, then of course it is perfect competition. Like, you don't have anything related to that. It is just a bar of gold that you are going to be selling at the price which is there prevailing in the market. Okay. Um, moving on. Perfect competition, price determination under perfect competition, like we just saw, the supply and demand curve, they meet at the equilibrium, and that's the price. Now, the individual seller or the firm becomes the price taker. And this is why the price, whether the quantity increases or decreases, it remains the same. And that's why the demand curve or the AR curve or the MR curve is just one horizontal line, and the quantity increases from n to m if need be. Like whenever you increase the quantity, it's not going to affect the price at all. Okay, so this is what happens in price perfect competition. um, in the short run, profit maximization by a competitive firm, that's what we're going to look at. So now in the first market graph that we have, supply, demand, equilibrium, quantity, and price, you know all of this. Now what happens here in the firm which is the price taker, this is the AR and the MR curve. And then we have a marginal cost curve. Okay. Marginal cost curve cuts the MR curve at the point R, and at the point T. Now, what the equilibrium is going to be where your MR is equal to MC, that is your marginal revenue is equal to your marginal cost, and your marginal cost curve cuts the MR curve from below. Okay, that means your marginal cost curve should be a positive slope. So the equilibrium is going to be at point R. So to answer that particular question, can you tell me equilibrium of the firm is at point?
That is AR is equal to MR.
Yeah. So your equilibrium, you have two conditions for equilibrium to be, for you to decide the equilibrium. Your MR, that is marginal revenue, should be equal to marginal cost. Okay. So marginal cost curve and marginal revenue curve, you see they intersect each other at 2 points, T and R, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Ma'am, actually, an individual firm earns profit when the marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. No?
yes, it does.
But how come the maximum revenue will be when marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue?
Yeah, so we'll come to it. The next slide will tell you, see, the next slide is talking about how we are making profits, normal profits, and then losses. Okay.
Yeah.
Here, when we are talking about this point R, here already in the marginal cost, a nominal profit is included. Nominal profit means the basic profit or the basic return on investment that an investor has to get when it invests into safe or very risk-free bonds. Okay, so
Yeah.
that is nominal profit that is included in this marginal cost. Okay, so at this point of marginal cost and marginal revenue, that particular point of R where you are hitting the equilibrium, that is the point where you are earning nominal profits.
Yeah.
Okay, let's proceed as you're already into that zone of profits and losses. See, now what happens here in the first graph that you can see, your average total cost curve is this curve. Can you see that? And your marginal revenue is a straight line, but your MC curve cuts the MR curve at E. This is your equilibrium. And at that same quantity of your equilibrium, your average total cost is actually B. So you are earning APEB as the profit because your cost is lower than your revenue. You get that now? In this first graph?
Ma'am, I didn't get the explanation of the graph.
Okay. So do you see the line AR is equal to MR is equal to P? That is your
Yeah,
price.
that straight line parallel to the x-axis,
Your price, right?
Yeah.
You know what? Just a second. Okay. Okay. So now you're seeing this particular line here, which is P, right?
Yeah, I have seen it.
Okay. Now we come to the average total cost curve. So the average total cost curve is this one.
Yeah.
And your marginal cost curve is here. Now what's happening? For your equilibrium, your MC should be equal to MR.
MR.
At point E. So this is your equilibrium point where you have to decide the equilibrium price and your quantity. Now at this equilibrium quantity, your cutting the average total cost curve at B.
Yeah.
That means your total cost is less than your revenue, right?
Okay, okay. Yeah,
When cost
total
is
cost.
less than revenue, then nothing but your,
Yeah, that is profit only.
okay, but this is
Yeah.
called your supernormal profit, because this cost already consists of your nominal profit, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So now this is the situation where there is profit for the firm,
Yeah.
supernormal profits. Now, when we come to normal profits, this is the normal situation that we discussed, where MC is equal to AC, and at the point E, this is the price. So this is based on a normal profit, where TR is equal to TC. That is, your total revenue is equal to the total
Yeah, ma'am.
cost.
Actually, I have one more question.
Yeah.
See in this that 80, that average total cost, no, they intersect at that MR curve is there, no, they intersect at that point, right? So if you take the corresponding quantity, that also will be profit, right? If you produce till that extent, we'll get the profit, right?
Um, which point are you talking about?
Ma'am, this ATC, no, that average total
Yeah.
cost is intersecting that AR
You're
curve.
talking about this.
Yeah, yeah, I'm talking about that. So if you take the corresponding quantity, the
Yeah.
till that quantity, if you produce, we'll have profit.
But then your marginal cost is here, right?
Yeah,
So that means your average total cost is increased, but your marginal cost is here. I think if we look at a sum, we will understand that producing this particular part is actually going to give us um, a loss to this, like how much of a profit we were going to earn,
yeah.
it would reduce that. This is why we don't have that excess quantity that we produce, this particular part.
Okay, okay.
Okay. We look at it. There is a particular graph ahead which will show
Yeah.
you why we don't take it up to the point where ABC.
Okay, ma'am.
Moving to the losses, have there is a option. There is a situation where your average total cost is going to be higher than your revenue, and here what's going to happen is that at the equilibrium, you are going to be ending up, um, having this as the ABEP as the loss, because you're selling it at price P, and your cost is OA. So this particular portion is your loss portion. And this is why this area gives you the loss. Now, this will continue only temporarily to cover your fixed cost, like we saw the principles of business, right? The behavioral principles. If we are covering the variable cost to a certain extent, and we are covering some portion of fixed cost, um, we continue temporarily, and then if we're not able to, we shut down, because if the price is still falling in the market, we shut down, so that once the price increases, we can restart the operations. So this situation does occur at times in basically certain markets where you're producing goods um, which are having fluctuating prices.
Ma'am, we can like, this scenario is like shutting down the business for a temporary period, no, to reduce the variable cost.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So we had this behavioral principles here, right? That is, a firm should not produce if it is not able to cover the variable cost. So here,
Yeah,
what is happening is it is scenario two, that is able to cover the variable cost, and it is able to cover the fixed cost, but only a portion of the fixed cost. So
yeah,
this is why it is continuing to a certain extent, but it will shut down temporarily, so that it can cover up that losses that it's making.
yeah, yeah. Okay, ma'am.
In the long run, this was still short run, okay? Now, in the
Yeah.
long run, what happens to the equilibrium of the firm? Here we have the supply and demand, they are intersecting at price and quantity that we've seen already. And here the price, because the firm is the price taker, it takes that price, it is having its MC curve, the long run MC curve, and this is why E is the quantity. But at this particular scenario, your short run marginal cost, your long run marginal cost, your average cost, your LAC, your E, your P, everything coincides at E1. So all the firms in the industry are at equilibrium. That is, all the firms are making maximum profit. So, and no firm has an incentive either to enter or exit the industry because all the firms are earning normal profits. And the price of the product is such that the quantity supplied by the industry is equal to the quantity demanded by the consumers. So, in the long run, this is a particular situation where your LAR, LMR, P, LMC, LAC all are equal, and there's optimum allocation of all the resources. Now, this is a very hypothetical situation, I would say, because in real world, it generally wouldn't happen like that. So this is why we say that the perfectly competitive market is a myth due to the assumptions that it is based on.
Ma'am, uh,
Yeah.
sorry for asking. What is LMC and
Yeah,
SMC and all?
MC is marginal cost. So LMC is long run marginal cost. Your
Okay, okay.
marginal cost, your short run marginal cost, everything becomes equal. Okay.
Okay, okay. Ma'am, it's
So
also
that's
like that, no? So in some, or we say in practical life, short run as well as long run, the cost will be equal, no? If it is fixed by the business.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, this is the situation in which everything is the same. But as it is saying in that small bubble that you can see on the side, that it is definitely a myth because of all these assumptions that
Yeah.
uh, it is based on. Okay,
Okay.
moving on. We have monopoly. So that was about perfect competition. Now we are starting with monopoly. Monopoly is nothing means alone, one seller. Okay. Pure monopoly is never found in practice except for public utilities like transport, water, electricity. Those are the general ones which are controlled by the government, and that's why there's monopoly over there. And features in a monopoly, we have single seller of the product, we have barriers to entry, that is, you are not, there are certain regulations, and which is why you are not allowed to enter into that particular market for that goods. There's no close substitute available. And market power, that is, monopoly is one in which they have the market power to ability to charge the prices at what they want to. So single seller, barrier to entry, no close substitutes, and market power. How do they arise? How do monopolies arise? See, the fundamental cause of monopoly is the barrier to entry. So, in effect, other firms cannot enter the market, and a few reasons for occurrence and continuation of monopoly we are just going to read now. So, they are strategic control over a scarce resource, input, or technology by a single firm, limiting the access of other firms to these resources. Okay, if very simple to understand, I think uh, wherever you don't understand, please stop me. Okay. Through developing or acquiring control over a unique product that is difficult or costly for other companies to copy. Governments granting exclusive rights to produce and sell a good or a service. So these are the reasons why monopoly has been continuing in certain areas. Okay. Now, government is also granting exclusive rights to certain people to produce or sell that good or service. And also you have patents and copyrights given by the government to protect the intellectual property rights and to encourage innovation. Business combination or cartels where former competitor cooperate on pricing or market share. This is also possible, but it is illegal as it mentions in most of the countries, where certain competitors, if they know that they are producing a good, some goods which are similar in nature, and they know that there are only say two or three of them, what they do is instead of competing with one another, they form a cartel and then they start uh, pricing and act as a monopoly. We learn further, this is also there coming with your oligopoly and monopolistic markets. Then we have extremely large startup cost. If certain industries have extremely large startup cost, then definitely monopoly will exist in that area, where the requirements are extraordinarily costly and sophisticated technical know-how is needed. So this is why the firms won't enter. Then you have natural monopoly arises when there are very large economies of scale. That is, a single firm can produce industry's whole output at a lower cost than two or more firms could. Here, you can take the example of telecom. Like if you have, um, even in Bahrain, initially, I think it was Betelco who was the leader and was the only producer of these telecom services. And then later we had Zain, Viva, and everything else coming in. Then you have enormous goodwill enjoyed by a firm for a considerably long period creates difficult barriers to entry. Stringent legal and regulatory requirements effectively discourages the entry of new firms when the legal and regulatory environment are very strict. Then firms use various anti-competitive practices, often referred to as predatory tactics, such as limit pricing or predatory pricing, intended to do away with existing or potential competition. Okay. Um, this is basically they get into these practices so that they don't have any firm entering their market to maintain their monopoly. Okay. Now, the revenue curves in
Ma'am, how
monopoly.
come telecom sectors be in a monopoly market?
No, I was saying it was, for example, here there was only Batelco in the beginning, right? And then you had various others coming in. It was just an example uh, of this current situation of Bahrain.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. But when we look at India, you can take railway. Railway is still a monopoly in India. You don't have private railways. You have only the government railways.
Yeah, but now privatization has started, no?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it is now
yeah,
after so long.
yeah, yeah. Now
So
everything would be privatized.
yeah, slowly. That's what we will probably move away from this monopoly concept as well.
Yeah, ma'am, we could say electricity in Bahrain, no?
Yeah, electricity, water.
Yeah.
This is uh, definitely controlled by the government. Yeah. Okay. Coming to the revenue curves, uh, here they're definitely going to be downward sloping curves in a monopoly because as they're able to reduce the price, the quantity demanded is definitely going to increase. So AR and MR are both sloped, that is downward sloping curves. The slope of MR is twice of that of AR. That is, this MR curve is basically cutting this into half, cutting this entire triangle into half. Okay. AR curve cannot be zero, but MR curve can be zero or even negative. So this is just about the AR and the MR curves. Profit maximization in a monopoly. So a monopolist needs to determine the price and the output at which it is having maximum profit. So monopoly itself, now in perfect competition, we saw that there is a market where the market graph where the price is determined based on supply and demand, and then the firm becomes a price taker. But monopoly is the price maker because they are the market, they are the firm, they are the only one who are selling that product. So they have to decide what is the maximum profit they are going to get at what point. As it's mentioned that the firm and the industry is identical in monopoly. So here we have the MR and AR curve as we just saw. And then you have the MC curve, which is coming from below and cutting the MR curve at point E. The conditions for equilibrium is the same. That is your marginal revenue should be equal to marginal cost. And the MC curve should cut the MR curve from below. Okay. Maximization of profit. Now here we have that the MC curve cuts the MR curve at point E to give the equilibrium OQ. At OQ, okay, at OQ, the price, that is if you extend, see this is the equilibrium. If you extend this to average revenue, you get A, and that's where the price comes in. So this is the price at that equilibrium at the average revenue. Then you have at the output level of OQ, the price is OP and the cost is, so here we have the ATC, right? So ATC is at B. So the cost is OC. So OC is less than OP. That means you're going to earn profits. And the profit area is APCB. Okay. This is maximization of profits for them. And then you have losses. Losses are also possible in a monopoly when there is low demand and rising costs. That would definitely lead to losses for a monopoly. Now, just a second. Yeah. Now, if we see in this particular graph, we have MR is equal to SMC, which is short run marginal cost at the point E. Here, the quantity is Q. And if we extend this to the AR curve, this is the price. And if we further extend to the short run average total cost, the cost is here at C. So OC is greater than OP, and this is why ABPC is going to be your loss. This won't survive for too long, so they will have to correct it in a way that they are able to earn at least nominal profits. Okay, so in the long run, these two positions were in short run. In the long run, the monopolist can adjust, they can adjust the plant size, they can adjust the remaining factors which are used to produce the product and get the costs in such a way that they get supernormal profits. Okay, so you can earn supernormal profits in monopoly. Like in perfect competition, we saw that it all comes down to nominal profits or normal profits. But in monopoly, in the long run as well, you can earn supernormal profits because you are the price maker. Okay. And so here, as we've seen before, ABCP is your profit area. And they will definitely not continue if they are making losses, but if they are making supernormal profits, they would definitely continue. And also they block the entry of the outside firms, right? So they are the only ones who are earning supernormal profits. That's what happens in the long run. In monopoly, there is a concept of price discrimination as well. Now, price discrimination occurs when a producer sells a specific commodity or service to different buyers at two or more different prices for reasons that are not associated with the cost. So it is not because there is a difference in cost, but they are two different segments of buyers. That's why they have different prices for them. So price discrimination is a method of pricing adopted by monopolists in order to earn abnormal profits. Okay. And price discrimination cannot persist under perfect competition because the seller has no influence over the market. Price discrimination requires an element of the monopoly so that the seller can influence the price of the product. Conditions for price discrimination, we have the seller should have some control over the supply of the product. The seller should be able to divide his markets into two or more sub markets. The price elasticity of the product should be different in different sub markets. The monopolist fixes a higher price for his product when he sees those buyers whose price elasticity of demand is less than one. That means if the monopolist charges a higher price, they do not significantly reduce the purchase in response to the high price. Okay, so this is why they differentiate the price, and they differentiate into these sub markets. It should not be possible for the buyers of low priced market to resell the product to the buyers of high priced market. That is, there should not be a position of market arbitrage. Okay, that is also a position, that is also a condition for price discrimination. What will happen if your buyers to whom you are selling at low price are able to resell the product at higher price in that higher market? Can you tell me what will happen if that takes place?
Ma'am, can you repeat the question once more?
So, what will happen if, for example, in this price discrimination, you end up
Yeah.
dividing the audience into two, and your buyers into two? Okay, one is low
Yeah.
priced market, one is higher priced market.
Yeah.
What will happen if you are selling goods to a low priced market buyer, and he in turn is reselling the goods to the high priced market buyer and earning that profit? What do you
Yeah.
think will happen in that case?
Uh, that is the government or the monopoly will not allow to do that, no?
Exactly. Why so? What happens then?
Because they want to be monopoly, they want to be only the single seller, so they want to have a control over the price, and
Exactly.
so they won't allow us to do.
Exactly. So this is also, like we mentioned here, this is one of the conditions of price discrimination. If this is allowed, then what will happen is your lower priced buyers will become your competitors for the high priced market, which you don't
Yeah.
want. So that's exactly which we want to avoid in monopoly. Okay. Objectives of price discrimination. Now, why do we have discrimination of prices? To earn maximum profit, to dispose of surplus stock if we have surplus, to enjoy economies of scale, that is large produce that we do, to capture foreign markets. Okay, you can have that local markets, you can discriminate price between local and foreign markets, and to secure equity through your pricing. Okay, so this is your basic objectives of price discrimination. Now, classification, we see that Professor Pigu classified 3 degrees of price discrimination. First degree is basically you separate the markets into each individual consumer and charge them a price that they are willing and able to pay. For example, you have doctors, lawyers, consultants, examples, even CAs. They can come into this market where you have each individual consumer can be charged separately. Second degree is that you have different prices are charged based on different quantities sold. That is, higher the quantity, lower the price per unit. Example, you have family pack of soaps, you have biscuits, etc. You get those big packs which are at a lesser value per unit, and that's the second degree of classification. Then you have your third degree where price varies based on the location. of the customer. So example, you are dumping it into an economy where you don't, dumping it into a country where you don't, where those products just need to be dumped and are not needed. Or if you're charging different prices for domestic use or commercial use, or you have lower prices in railways like for senior citizens, all that helps in your, all that is also your way of classifying the price discrimination.
Yeah, ma'am, in third degree, we are discussing at many times in like online purchase also it happens, no? For different countries, the different prices will be there, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, based on the location, they change the
Yeah,
price.
exactly. Like the same thing if I buy here and the same thing if I buy back in India, it might be different. The price might be different. The
Yeah, yeah.
producer is the same, but charging different price.
Ma'am, they are actually tracking the location and charging, no?
Yeah. Also,
These
of course, like for
websites.
example, if the product is being produced in India and if you're selling it in India, the transaction costs associated there are lesser if they have to export the product to, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
another country and do it. So we need to also, of course, consider that on the back of it. But
Yeah,
yeah, so that also probably would come under the third degree. Monopoly, now we're looking at the equilibrium under price discrimination. Now we said that the what we're going to do, we're going to be distributing the quantity or the output that we have into say two markets for our convenience. Okay, so we need to make three decisions. How much of the quantity we have to put into these products, these markets? um, how much of the total output should be produced, total output, okay, and what price should be charged in these two sub markets. Now first let's look at this particular area where we have these three graphs. Okay, now let's look at sub market A. We will only look at the demand or the AR curve and the MR curve. Okay, don't look at anything else. In submarket B as well, we are looking at the demand curve and the MR curve. Now, if you see here in submarket A, the slope is different, and the submarket B, the slope is different. Okay, that's because we, as we mentioned, the elasticity, the price elasticity of demand is different in both the markets. Now, when you laterally add these two, it's going to give you the curve over here, which is the MR curve. If you laterally add, it will give you the AMR curve. See, this portion is giving you this portion, and this portion is basically giving you this portion corresponding to this. And likewise, the demand curve, it is also the addition of this and this. Okay, now once you have this, now let's not see the first two graphs and only look at the total market graph. Now you have the demand curve, the MR curve, and then you have the MC. Okay, now here is your point E, which is your equilibrium at which your aggregate market revenue, marginal revenue is equal to your marginal cost. This, when drawn down, we get that OM is going to be the quantity and say OP is going to be your price. Now, this particular equilibrium, we drag it to the other graphs. Now, when you drag this to the other graphs, you get your E2 here, which is at the MR curve of this particular submarket B, and then submarket A as well, you get the E1 as your equilibrium. Now at that, what you're going to do, you're going to produce it down and get your OM1, which is your quantity, and OP1, your price, OP2 and OM2. Now what's this, because you have drawn it down from the equilibrium of the total market, what's going to happen? Your OM1 plus OM2 should be equal to OM. Okay. And let's see further. So now we have that the AMR curve. Okay, we did that. OM, which is quantity first fixed as per the equilibrium, then the equalities of MRs in the two market, the whole output ensures that the amount sold in the two sub-markets will together be equal to OM, which is the quantity of the total market. So as we said, OM1 plus OM2 should be equal to OM. And on the basis of the quantities, we are able to decide what should be the price. So the first three questions that we had, are these answered now? How much total output should be produced? We have OM. How the total output should be distributed? That also we have as OM1 and OM2. What prices should be charged? Also we have P1 and P2. Okay, so this is basically under price discrimination. This is how we fix the prices. Understood? Okay. Economic effects of monopoly. Monopoly is often criticized because it reduces the aggregate economic welfare through loss of productive and allocative efficiency. Monopolists charge substantially higher prices and produce lower level of output that would exist if there were more competitive firms. Monopolists also earn economic profits, that is supernormal profits, in the long run, which is unjustifiable. Okay. Monopoly prices exceed the marginal cost and therefore reduces the consumer surplus. So there is a transfer of income from the consumers to the monopolists. And that is generally not good for an economy. Monopoly restricts the consumer sovereignty and consumers' opportunity to choose what they desire because there's only one seller. Then monopolists may use unjust means to create barriers to entry. A monopolist having substantial financial resources is in a powerful position to influence the political process in order to obtain favorable legislation. Again, the game of politics in order to get, limit the entry and to influence the particular market. That's what a monopolist would do. Very often, we have monopolists do not have the necessary incentive to introduce effective innovations and to improve the product or reduce the cost. Why? Because there's no competition. So they are not motivated enough to improve the product quality or reduce the product cost. Monopolies are able to use their monopoly power to pay lower prices, and the economy is also likely to suffer from inefficiency, which is in the loss of management efficiency and market because there's no competition. Moving to monopolistic competition. Now, imperfect or monopolistic competition is basically it has both the features, that is monopoly and perfect competition. This type of market is more common than pure competition or pure monopoly. The industries that we see here is basically clothing, manufacturing, retail. This is general retail trade. This is generally taken to monopolistic competition. The features we have is large number of sellers, product differentiation, that is the firms use basically different size, design, color, shape, or packaging to promote their products. We just mentioned, as Nizam mentioned, the example of toothpaste, So we have various brands in toothpaste, right? You have Aquafresh, you have Total, you have Colgate, you have Pepsodent and Sensodyne. So they all are using the same, the product is the same, but there's still product differentiation. Why? due to design, color, shape, performance. Some target on cavity, some target on freshness of your breath, some target on whitening of your teeth. So that's the differentiation that they come up with. Since all the brands are close substitutes, like it's someday if you go to the market and you generally use Colgate, but you're not able to get in Colgate, what are you going to do? You're going to buy whatever next is available, right? If it is an emergency and you need a toothpaste. So they are close substitutes to one another. And this is why the seller cannot increase the price of the product to a very great extent, because they will lose their customers, because there is some portion of competition. So this is basically a blend, a perfect blend of monopoly and perfect competition. There is freedom to entry and exit. There is no barrier here. And even non-price competition takes place. That is elements of advertising, product development, better distribution arrangements. All of this is, all of these are the factors of non-price competition. So monopolistic competition, price output determination. Here we have, like we've seen before, you have your MR curve, your MC curve, your AR curve, and AC curve. Here also you can see that the PRQS is your profit. Okay. This is a particular situation that can exist in the monopolistic competition. Each firm is a price maker and is in a position to determine the price of its own product, but they have to keep a check of their close competition that they have with these similar products that are produced. Okay, for example, again the same toothpaste example, if we take, if we are getting a small pack of Colgate for say 1 BD, we cannot have the small pack of Aquafresh for say 2.5 BD. So that's just not going to work because they are very close substitutes of one another. So you can have 1.5 BD, 1.2 BD difference. That is generally okay with the consumers as well. Now, there is a possibility of loss too. Same case, that is your cost is higher than your revenue. So you're going to earn a loss of this area, which is HKTG. Possible, again, same scenario where you're able to cover a certain portion of your fixed cost and completely of your variable cost, you would end up going into this situation. Those were short run. So in the long run, we see that the equilibrium of the firm is going to be in a place where your, long run marginal cost, long run average cost, all of this is going to come together. So if the firm in a monopolistically competitive industry earns supernormal profits, then in the short run, so what's going to happen, it will be incentives for new firms to enter the market, right? Because if they know that in a particular business there is supernormal profits, you would want to enter that particular business. So firms are going to enter, and then as more firms enter, profit per firm will go on decreasing, because the total demand of the product is the same, but it is shared among larger number of firms. So this will happen till all the supernormal profits are wiped away and all the firms own only normal profit. Thus, in the long run, all firms under monopolistic competition will earn only normal profits. In case of persisting losses in the long run, the loss-making firms will exit from the market, and this will go on till the remaining firms make normal profits. In the figure, we can see here that the firm could expand its output from Q to R and reduce the average cost. Okay. This is, Nizam, something that you were asking, yeah? Like you can move from Q to R because your LMC is here. Okay. But it does not do so. Why? Because the firm will reduce, the average revenue will reduce more than it reduces the average cost. It implies that the firms in monopolistic competition are not of optimum size, and there exists excess capacity of production with each firm. Okay, so this is their excess capacity. In monopolistic firms, there is always this wastage. There is capacity, but they will not produce. Why? Because your revenue is less than your cost, and that particular part is going to be your loss. So instead of making that loss, they will just not produce this excess quantity. Okay, clear? Okay, let's move to oligopoly. Oligopoly is again one of the forms of imperfect competition. Uh, it's definitely described as competition among the few. In other words, when there are very few, 2 to 10 sellers in a market selling homogeneous or differentiated products, oligopoly is said to exist. For example, we have cold drink industry, airline, petroleum, mobile telephone, and internet service providers. So they all come under oligopoly because there are very few sellers. Types of oligopoly. Okay, so here you have pure or perfectly oligopoly where you have product is homogeneous. This is differentiation based on product. So your product is homogeneous in nature. Example, aluminium, petroleum, steel, etc. So that's one way. And then imperfect or differentiated oligopoly occurs when the goods sold is based on the product differentiation. Then you have open and close oligopoly. Open means new firms can enter, close means entry is restricted. Collusive and competitive oligopoly. Here it is when few firms collide with each other to fix the price. That's called collusive. And when there is absence of this kind of understanding and they compete with one another, that's called competitive oligopoly. Partial or full oligopoly, when there is one large firm that is looked upon as the leader for the group. Partial, the dominating firm will be the price leader. And in full oligopoly, the market will be conspicuous because there's absence of price leadership. Syndicated or an organized oligopoly, here when the firms sell their products through a centralized syndicate, there is a centralized system which helps them sell it. And the other one is where there's an organized oligopoly, is a situation where the firms organize themselves in a central association for fixing prices or outputs, etc. So these are basically the types of oligopoly. Characteristics, we have strategic interdependence. So the most important feature is basically the interdependence in decision making of few firms which comprise the industry. Since there are only few sellers, there will be intense competition among them. Under oligopoly, each seller is big enough to influence the price, but the firm has to necessarily respond to the rival's action, and simultaneously, the rivals also respond to the firm's action. This is because when the number of competitors is few, any change in price, output, or product by a firm will have direct effect on the fortunes of the rivals, who will then retaliate by changing their own price, output, or advertising techniques. One of the examples that we saw was the cold drink industry. So you can see how Coke, Pepsi, 7 Up, all of these are very closely interdependent when it comes to pricing, and they watch each other's advertising and everything very closely. That's a very good example there. Importance of advertising and selling cost. Now, a direct effect of the interdependence of oligopolists is that the firms have to employ various aggressive and defensive marketing weapons to gain greater share in the market. So there's a lot of importance of advertising and selling costs. Price basis, because if they start undercutting one another, that is on the basis of prices, a type of price war will come, and many, which will drive like a few of them out of the market, as customers will try to buy from the cheapest seller. So that's why they don't go into a price war, but they try to compete on non price basis. Group behavior. The theory of oligopoly is a theory of group behavior. So, not of mass or individual behavior, and to assume profit maximizing behavior on the oligopolists part may not be very valid. There is no generally accepted theory of the group behavior. So, because it's a group, it can behave in any way. There can be a leader, there cannot be a leader. There can be, few leaders who are doing something. So oligopoly has a group behavior, and it is just very, um, uh, you know, not really organized. But each oligopolist, each firm, it does closely watch the business of the other oligopoly in the industry, and they try to design their move on the basis of some assumption as to how the others are going to behave. So that's something that they really study in oligopoly. Price and output decisions, like unlike the other markets where we have a particular way that we determine the prices, and there is like a proper chart and mechanism to do so, under oligopoly that doesn't really exists, because they are all trying to study what their rivals are doing, and if their rivals change their price in any way, they are going to have a change in their prices as well. So they don't have a proper diagram by which we can understand, but they have various strategies that they adopt for determining the prices and price and output. So let's try to see that. The behavioral pattern of other firms in the market are understood, and the important oligopoly models are: number one, it is assumed by some economists that oligopolistic firms ignore their interdependence and make their own decisions independently. There could be some firms like that. So when this happens, then you can have that same curve where you have the demand, the supply, and the marginal cost and the marginal revenue, and the equilibrium output is, you know, understood there. Next, we have
Ma'am, we discussed that in oligopoly, the price and output is based on a group behavior, right?
yes.
So then suppose why an individual firm cannot decide the price or the same in the output, that depends upon that organization, no?
Yeah, exactly. So what we're trying to say here is that what happens in oligopoly is you are trying to closely watch what your rival is going to do, and that's how you are going to change your prices. So this is why there are various strategies that you can adopt. Okay, so that's what they are trying to explain. So if in the first one is the one where they are just ignoring the interdependence, that is, they are not looking at their rivals, and they will make their own decision, and they individually will set their price and output based on their own marginal revenue and marginal cost. Okay, that is one strategy. That's what, now we're coming to the second strategy. Got it then, Nizam? Okay, coming to the
Yeah, yes,
second.
ma'am, I got it.
Okay. So some economists assume that an oligopolist is able to predict the reaction pattern of his competitor, and on the basis of his prediction, he makes decisions relating to the price and quantity. Okay, this is now one of them saying that I can predict, what the reaction is going to be, because they have studied the competitors very well. So in Carnot model, the firm's control variable is output in contrast to price. That is, the variable that they play with is the output and not the price. So they do not collude. They only try to change the output, that is the number of units that they are producing. In Stackelberg's model, the leader commits to an output before all other firms. The rest of the firms are followers and they choose their outputs so as to maximize their profit given the leader's output. So in that Stackelberg's model, basically once the leader has committed to an output, you can come to a conclusion that you know how the price is going to be. So all the remaining firms, they are followers. They try to choose their output so as to maximize their profits. According to Bertrand's model, price is the control variable for the firms. So, and each firm independently sets its price in order to maximize the profit. So Carnot's model was looking at output, whereas Bertrand's model is looking at price, which is the control factor. The third approach, yes, Priyanka?
I had a doubt in the previous point. Basically, how is cartel different from group behavior of oligopoly?
How is a cartel
Different from the group behavior of oligopoly?
here?
Yeah.
Okay. So here, like when you're talking about the characteristics of oligopoly, this is just one of the characteristics saying that an oligopoly has that group behavior. Now, cartel is formed because they are producing the same product, but there are very few producers of that particular product, and they themselves agree on that price. Now, cartel is a place where they will definitely agree on a price and they will not move away from that particular pricing. They will not compete with one another. Whereas in oligopoly, they may or they may not. It is completely up to them. They are in a group. There are small number of sellers who are selling these products, but they may or may not, agree on the pricing or follow a leader. It all depends.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
We have cartel further. I think in the further slides you will see. Yeah, that's the next slide where you'll see under price leadership we'll be discussing cartel. So you can say cartel is actually a form of oligopoly. It can be one of the group behaviors of oligopoly. Okay. Coming to the oligopoly models that we're looking at, the third approach is that the oligopolists enter into an agreement and try to pursue their common interest. That is, they jointly act as a monopoly. Okay, and here again, like we were mentioning, their prices they fix their prices in such a manner that their joint profits are maximized, and then they will share the profit, market, or output among themselves as agreed. This is basically like forming a cartel, and it is generally considered illegal because it restricts the trade and creates situations which are close to monopoly. However, in reality, we find a number of cartels operating in the world economy who collude formally or in a tacit manner. One of them being Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. You have OPEC. Is the best example of such type of agreement under oligopolists. Yes. So Priyanka, I think this is clear that they definitely, they jointly come in together to pursue their common interest. So cartel is a form under oligopoly, you can say, but it's not necessary like a all cartels will be an oligopoly, but not necessary that all oligopolies are cartels. Are we able to understand that now?
Yeah, yeah. So can we also say like cartel is to dominate the market?
Yeah, so this is what we're saying here, right? So if there's a cartel formed which dominates the market, it acts like a monopoly. And this is considered illegal in certain markets because it restricts the trade and it creates situations which, has the monopoly power, and the governments and the economy will not flourish if you have a monopoly. So they try to not have these kind of cartels. But certain situations, of course, in the world economy, we see OPEC as the best example, where we do have cartels and we try to, have the petroleum prices controlled there. So that's that. Okay, moving to price leadership. We have cartels are often formed in the industry where there are few firms, all of which are of similar size. Then a group of firms that explicitly they agree to collude, to coordinate their activities is called a cartel. If participating producers stick to the cartel's agreements, then the cartel will have high market power and earn monopoly profits, especially when the demand of the product is inelastic. But it is possible that there is a dominant or a large firm surrounded by a large number of small firms. If these firms are numerous, the large firm has to decide to set its price, taking into account the behavior of these fringe firms. In this, we have various strategies that the firm could follow. We have lit and let live philosophy, where the dominant firm accepts that these firms are present and sets the prices in such a way that it gets maximum profits, taking into account the fringe firm's behavior. Price leadership by a low cost firm. The price leader sets the price in such a manner that it allows some profits to the followers also. Barometric price leadership, that is very old, experienced, largest or most respected firm acts as the leader and assesses the market condition. Whatever price it takes up, the other firms will just follow. So this is basically the price leadership around oligopoly. Kinked demand curve or Sweezy's model. So it is observed that in oligopoly industry that the price remains sticky or inflexible for a very long time. Okay, that they are stuck to that particular price. Why? Okay, in oligopoly, because there are these few number of sellers, they keep a watch of these rivals. What's going to happen if they move below, anywhere below the current price, that if they start selling at a lower price, what's going to happen? They're going to sell more, the quantity will increase, but because the rivals are keeping a close watch, they all will also reduce their price, and that's why the quantity that they're selling will not increase that much. That is, it is inelastic, or not so not as much as the price increase. The quantity, it will not have as much effect. Whereas if they increase the price, then the quantity reduced will be very drastic, because the remaining people, they will continue, the remaining competitors, they'll be very happy to continue at the prevailing price and get all the customers, because no one is going to buy at a higher price. So here, if we see what Sweezy is trying to tell us, that Paul A. Sweezy is telling us that this particular area, if the price increases, then it is highly elastic. That is, the quantity will reduce at a very drastic measure, like the quantity will reduce very drastically. Whereas if the price reduces, the quantity will not increase so drastically. So every seller will try to remain at this point of price, which is basically price rigidity. And this is why there is a kink at that particular price. Okay, so everyone understood why there is a kink in this demand curve? Okay. Other market forms, we have duopoly, which is basically a subset of oligopoly in a market situation in which there are only two firms. Monopsony, which is nothing but a single buyer for a product. It is basically applicable in factor markets. Oligopsony is also small number of large buyers and is mostly relevant for factor markets. And bilateral monopoly, which is a market structure in which there is only one seller and one buyer. That is the combination of monopoly and monopsony, which is bilateral monopoly. Now, this was basically your chapter 4. We will try to quickly run down chapter 5. Business cycles. I think this is relatively easier. Let's quickly run. Business cycles. What are business cycles? They are nothing but the rhythmic fluctuations in aggregate economic activity that an economy experiences over a period of time. They are manifested in fluctuations in measures of aggregate economic activities such as gross national product, employment, and income. There are various phases in business cycles. As we can see in this graph, there is an expansion phase, then we reach the peak, and then we have the contraction phase and we reach the trough. Expansion is also known as boom or upswing. The peak is known as the boom or the prosperity. Contraction is downswing, and your trough is depression. Going into detail of these phases, the expansion phase, it's nothing but think of you having a very good day. You will try to do your best. You will have a very productive day. You will try to, make the best of every second that you have. So that's what happens in expansion. Everything is increasing. Your national output is increasing. Your employment is increasing. Your aggregate demand is increasing. Capital, consumer expenditure, everything is booming. Okay. All of this is increasing and it continues to increase till you reach that level where you have reached full employment of all the resources that are there, and that growth will eventually slow down when you are reaching towards the uh, peak. So the term peak refers to the top or the highest point of the business cycle. Consumers begin to review their consumption expenditure on, they start, see, they had a very good day yesterday. So they ended up, doing so many good things and spending and buying and, trying to do all of that. The next day now they're thinking that, how much did we spend? Like, do we really need to, buy this and that? So they start to understand that they've hit the peak. Now they're going to try and stabilize their, their expenses, their income, everything will come to a stability. And then because the growth has stopped there, that's the end of the expansion cycle for sure, expansion phase for sure. And then it starts moving down in the reverse direction. So your reverse direction is nothing but your contraction. So the economy cannot continue to grow endlessly, okay? Because once the peak is reached, increase in demand is halted. That is, it doesn't grow. And during contraction, there's a fall in the level of the investment, the employment. It's just you having a very bad day. So everything is just going bad. Your supply increases more than the demand. Um, this happens in few sectors and then moves to the other sectors and the entire economy. And then what happens in return? There's a chain reaction in which everything comes down. Everything starts canceling, curtailing, beginning of reception. Your producers lower their prices in order to dispose of their inventory and for meeting the financial obligation. The consumers, in turn, expect that there will be further decrease in the prices and they postpone their purchase. So, with reduced consumer spending, aggregate demand will fall and generally causing the fall in prices. So the discrepancy between demand and supply keeps getting wider, and this process, which will gather speed, becomes very severe. This process is part of the cycle is called as contraction or recession, and when it hits its bottom, it is basically pushing the economy towards depression or trough. Now, depression is the severe form of recession and is characterized by extremely sluggish economic activities. During this phase of the business cycle, growth rate becomes negative and the level of national income and expenditure declines rapidly. The demand for the products and services decreases, prices are at the lowest and decline rapidly to shut down in several production facilities. Since companies are unable to sustain their workforce, they will be leading to unemployment. And a typical feature of depression is falling interest rates. But of course, the economy will not continue in that particular depression state, right? So they have to recover. And the recovery generally starts when a particular investor he thinks, now I think that the economy has he reached the rock bottom, and uh, from here there is only upwards. So what they do, they start injecting money into the economy by injecting money into certain industries, which in turn gives employment to labor. And that's basically the initial reversal is felt when the labor market, where your labor or the workforce starts to work even at lower than the prevailing rates, they will start to work. And then when the other investors are seeing that, there is low cost in producing a particular good, and the price is decent, they will start investing, and this is how the recovery stage starts. And then you have the expansion and the good old days again. So this is the cycle with which every business, or I would say an economy, has to go through. Let's understand the indicators. It is very difficult to predict basically these turning points, but the economists try to use certain indicators where they try to see how or in which direction that the economy is headed. Now, the first one we have is the leading indicators. They are basically a measurable economic factor that changes before the economy starts to follow a particular pattern or trend. So they are the one who lead that particular trend. In other words, the variable that change before the real output changes are called the leading indicators. They often change prior to large economic adjustments, and examples can be like, changes in stock market. We have profit margins and profits, indices such as housing, interest rates. They generally tell you beforehand. That is, they are the leading indicators and they tell you in which direction is the economy going, upwards or downwards. The variables that change after the real output changes are called lagging indicators. So if the leading indicator signals like an onset of business cycle, the lagging indicators, they just confirm the trend. So they are basically noticed only to see that whatever you were thinking was the indication by the leading indicators, they confirm that. So some examples are rate of unemployment, corporate profits, labor cost per unit, interest rates. All these are lagging indicators. The third type we have is the coincident indicators. Coincident economic indicators are called concurrent indicators. They coincide or occur simultaneously with the movement of the business cycle. Since they coincide fairly closely with the changes, they describe the current state of the business cycle. In other words, these indicators give information about the rate of change of expansion or contraction. So they give the rate of change. to what extent or how quickly or how slowly this particular business cycle is going. So a few example we have is the GDP or industrial production, inflation, personal income, retail sales, etc. Features of business cycle, I've seen that this question, some or the other way they do ask in your MCQs as well. So business cycles occur periodically. They may not be with the same regularity. The duration also will change. The intensity of fluctuation also varies. Business cycles have distinct phases of expansion, peak, contraction, and trough. Business cycles generally originate in free market economies. They are pervasive as well. Although all sectors are adversely affected by business cycles, some sectors, such as capital good industries, durable consumer good industries, are disproportionately affected. Moreover, compared to agriculture sector, the industrial sector is more prone to adverse effects of the trade cycle. Business cycles are exceedingly complex phenomena. They do not have a uniform characteristic and causes. They are caused by varying factors. And some examples that we can give is the last few in the 20th century. We had not in 20th century. We had the dot-com bubble. Then we also had recently in 2007 to 2009, we had the US housing market that caused the business cycles to go into a depression, recession state, and then the depression and so on.
Ma'am, mortgage something. You're talking about that US something happened, no?
Yeah, those were on the house mortgages, right?
Yeah.
Because of which
Great Depression and all those things happened.
So, I mean, it is definitely you cannot predict. Uh, you cannot say till how long that the cycle is going to go. So every cycle is unique in its own way. And the economists, of course, during that period, they can tell you.
Ma'am, there is something called business bubble, no?
Yeah. So those came in during the dot-com bubble and this thing that we had, where they kept anticipating that because they kept anticipating that the prices of these, dot-com companies would rise. They had various companies just formed, and even if they wrote like .com or something into their names, their prices of those stocks would increase because of the craze that the people had without understanding the foundation or the fundamentals on which it is going to increase or work. And this finally it led to the bubble burst, where we had many companies shutting down and many people losing a lot of money in these dot-com stocks. So yeah, that is also one of the features of a business cycle where these kind of things also affect it. We'll come. I think there's an internal and external factors that affect the business cycle, and we'll get more into it. Business cycles are contagious and they are international in nature. That is uh, something that happens in one country, no longer it remains in that country only. It is spread throughout the world, and they have serious consequences on the well-being of the society. Like we were saying, we have the causes of the business cycle. Internal causes, the fluctuations in effective demand. What is effective demand? Can anyone tell me what is effective demand?
Effective demand, where the all the quantity produced as it what is supplied is demanded. That is effective demand when we learned in respect of the Keynesian theory.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, in
So,
an equilibrium
hmm,
like that.
effective demand is basically the
That is
willingness.
demand has an effect to what absorb all the what he says that the quantity supplied, right? What is produced is what is demanded.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so basically it is the willingness and ability to buy, right, of the consumers to produce the goods at different prices. So according to Keynes, fluctuations in these economic activities that the business cycle is due to the change or fluctuation in the aggregate effective demand. An increase in the demand causes the expansion or boom, and a decrease in demand causes the recession or depression. That is what Keynes is telling. Okay. Fluctuations in investments. So, according to some economists, fluctuation in investment causes the business cycles. So, investments fluctuate quite often because the change in the profit expectations of the entrepreneurs, right? So, if there will be an increase in investment, the shift of the aggregate demand is going to go to the right. That is, it is going to go into expansion and boom. And if there is a decrease in investments, of course, the shift is going to be left. Variation in government spending. Certain economists also tell us that fluctuation is because of the variation in government spendings. So, with its impact on the aggregate economic activity, it results into business fluctuation. Government spending, especially during war or destabilizing effects on the economy, has destabilizing effects on the economy. Macroeconomic policies, we have expansionary policies such as increased government spending, cuts in tax are the most common methods to boost the aggregate demand. And the anti-inflationary measures such as reduction in government spending, increase in taxes, also put downward pressure on the aggregate demand and the economy slows down. Money supply, we have according to Pottery, uh, trade cycle is a pure monetary phenomenon. An increase in the supply of money causes expansion. Yeah, an increase in the supply of money causes expansion in the aggregate demand. However, an excessive increase also sets into inflation in the economy. On the other hand, decrease in the supply reverses the process and initiates recession in the economy. Psychological factors, according to Pigu, modern business activities are based on the anticipations of business community and are affected by the waves of optimism or pessimism. So he was basically based on the psychological factors. If the entrepreneur is optimistic about the future of that market condition, then they make that investment, and as a result, the expansion takes place. And the opposite happens when the entrepreneurs are pessimistic about the future market conditions. There are also two more that I've just included below. That is according to Schumpeter's innovation theory. Um, Trade cycle occurs as a result of innovation which takes place in the system from time to time. Okay, so he's basically more towards innovation. If there is an innovation in any other in any industry, then that would definitely lead to the trade cycles occurring at that particular time. Uh, I think this was more related to the dot com and everything that came in. The cobweb theory propounded by Nicholas Caldor holds the business cycle result from the fact that present prices substantially influence the production at some future date. So the present fluctuation in price may become responsible for fluctuation in the output and employment at some subsequent period. So that's what Cobweb's theory or Nicholas Caldor's theory held. Here we have external causes. External causes, very simple here. We have war. Definitely during war times, the production of war goods are more, and the resources of the country are completely diverted towards that. And this will affect your economy. Post-war reconstruction, of course, after the war, you need to redo your houses, bridges, roads, etc. And the economy has to again, pick up from below. Technology shocks. Growing technology enables production of new and better products and services. So these products generally require huge investments for new technology adoption. So this leads to expansion of employment, income, profits, and that's the boom. Okay. For example, due to the advent of mobile phones, the telecom industries underwent a boom, and there was expansion of production, employment, income, and profits. Natural factors, we have weather cycles can also cause fluctuations in agricultural output, which in turn causes instability in the economy. In the years when there were like droughts or excessive floods, the agricultural output is badly affected. Reduced production of food will push the prices and thus reduce the income available for buying industrial goods. And then that reduces the demand for the industrial goods and leads to a recession. Population growth. If the growth rate of population is higher than the rate of economic growth, then there will be definitely lesser savings in the economy. Fewer savings means reduce in investment, and as a result, the income and employment will also be less. This will all slow down the economy and lead to recession and then drought. Relevance of business cycle in decision making. Why do we need to know these business cycles in business decision making? Let's understand. So understanding the business cycle is very important. That is, at what phase right now is going on of the business cycle is very important in order to make a decision for your own business as well, because it's going to affect the market conditions, affect your business. So business of all type get affected by the demand of the product, and in turn their profits, which are ultimately determines whether a business is successful or not. So knowledge regarding the business cycle and their inherent characteristic is important. For example, the period of prosperity opens up new and superior opportunities for investment, employment, and production. In contrast, when a period of recession or depression, it reduces the business opportunities and profits. A profit maximizing firm has to consider the nature of economic environment while making business decisions, especially those related to forward planning. So some businesses are more vulnerable to changes in the business cycle than the other. So those who are closely linked to the rate of economic growth are referred to as cyclical businesses. These include fashion retailers, electrical goods, house builders, restaurants, advertising, overseas tour operators, etc. So during a boom, such businesses see a strong demand for their products, and during slump, they usually suffer very badly. I would say these times of the pandemic, we can see very closely what is very closely related to the economic growth of the country. It may also happen that some businesses actually benefit from this economic downturn. This happens when their products are perceived by the customers as representing good value of money or a cheaper alternative compared to the most expensive product. So if you are a company which is producing similar goods to a very expensive one but at a cheaper rate, the economic downturn something could be something good for you, because the people have less money but they want to buy those products, and you give them cheaper alternative, they are going to come to you. Understanding what phase of business cycle an economy is in and what implications the current economic conditions have for their current and future business activity, it will help the business to better anticipate the market and to respond with great alertness. So this is definitely important. When you start any business, you need to know. Uh, just a second. Yeah, when you start any kind of business, you need to know, what phase of the business cycle that you are in. With that, I think we come to an end of this session. Any doubts or queries, please feel free to message or WhatsApp me. I'm available. And I think the exams have been pushed now, so you have more time to prepare. Nizam,
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, thank you, ma'am, for taking the class.
most welcome, most welcome. And as I said once again, please feel free to contact if you have any kind of doubt. Always available. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you, Nizam. Thank you, Priyanka. Okay. So Vivek, I'm going to be ending the session here.